Hi everybody, it's me, Mr. Peets. So I'm going to show you how to draw very basic geometric shapes, and then we're going to add some shadows, cast shadows, to indicate a specific light source. All right, so the first thing I want you to do is you're going to get yourself a piece of paper. Printer paper is fine, and then just a regular pencil is fine. Make sure you have one with an eraser, just in case you make any mistakes, you can erase them. So what I'm going to have you guys do first is we're going to break this down into four different sections of the paper. So I'm going to draw sort of a line going across the middle like this. And then I'm going to draw a vertical line that goes through the middle like this. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And the first one, if you guys remember during our Google Meet, was we talked about a cube. Second one is going to be a cylinder. The third one is going to be a cone. And the last one's going to be a pyramid. Okay, so those are going to be your 3D geometric forms that we're going to draw, and I'll show you how to do each one of those. Okay, so when we draw a cube, just like I showed you, with your pencil, I want it to be slightly over towards the left. I don't want it right in the middle. I want it a little bit over to the left. So I'm going to draw a square. Start off with a flat shape. And let's assume that the light source is coming from this direction. And then what we're going to do is to take this square and to make it look like it's 3D, I'm going to draw these three lines. And what's important is I started at these three corners, and these three lines are all going in the exact same direction, okay? So if I were to put my pencil over those lines, they're all facing the same direction. You don't want to put one this way, and one this way. That wouldn't look right. So you want to make sure that they are all parallel to each other. That's really, really important. Then I'm going to go ahead and close it. So if this is horizontal, this is horizontal. And then if this one's vertical, this one's vertical. All right, and then you have the basic shape of a cube, and then I'm going to go ahead and put like an indication of a horizon behind it, just a little one, just like that. Okay, so that's the contour lines for the cube. The next one is going to be a cylinder. So a cylinder is really easy. I don't want to start in the middle. I want to be slightly over to the left. So I'm going to slightly over to the left and up. I'm going to make a wide oval like that. This is going to be the top of our cylinder. And then at the very left, I'm going to put a point, and at the very right, so like if my pencil were just before it turns back in, I'm going to put a point, and the same thing back over here. So the very ends of that oval are going to have points. I'm going to draw a straight line going straight down. And same thing for the other side, so that these two are parallel and about the same length. Now, what's really important with a cylinder is you don't want to draw a straight line going across. That would not be right. You actually want to mimic the bottom portion of this oval because it's going to be the same way. So you always end a cylinder with a smile. And there, now you have a cylinder. And then again, we'll make sure the light source is coming from that side and an indication of some kind of horizon behind it. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to draw a cone. Cone, same thing, not in the center. We'll draw it slightly over to the left. Cone is really easy. You start a triangle, so it's sort of like an upward arrow. Something like that. And instead of doing finishing the triangle with a straight line, you're going to end with a smile. Okay, and that's your basic cone. And then the last one we're going to do, actually real quick, want to put a little horizon on here. Maybe have a light source coming in that direction. Okay, and the last one we're going to do, and again, we're not done after we draw this. We're going to do the shading, so don't go anywhere after you're done drawing this. You're going to draw the pyramid. Same thing, not in the center, slightly off to the left. We will start off with doing a basic triangle. So I am going to draw a flat triangle for the pyramid. Okay, now from the very top point of that pyramid, I'm going to draw a slightly angled line, about that far into it, and then I'm going to close it off. Okay, these lines are kind of arbitrary, so they don't quite have to be perfectly angled, but you want to try and make it look like this is the front face, this is the side face of the pyramid. And then, of course, the last thing is I'll do an indication of a horizon line, and we'll have the light source coming from that direction again. Now, this is the part where we're going to do the shading. So if we look at our cube, if the light source is coming from this direction, just like I did in the Google Meet video, this is going to be sort of a light gray, it's light to mid gray. So I'm going to slightly shade it in with just a little bit of pressure, not too much. Notice I'm using the side of the pencil too when I'm shading this in. And because the other side is going to be dark, because this side's very light, I'm going to go with a much darker value. Okay. Now that's the shadows of the cube. Now we're going to do the cast shadows. So in order to do the cast shadows, I like to take this line. I like my cast shadows to be perfectly horizontal. All right. A lot of people have them on angles, and really, if you're drawing from life, cast shadows are going to go in lots of different directions. But just for the sake of learning this, I want you guys to continue the bottom of this line and continue this horizontally. Okay, and then this corner, I'm going to start from there, and I'm going to continue this. Okay, and then we're going to shade it in nice and dark. Now this is going to be the cast shadow, or the shadow that's going to be on the ground, and I want it to be more on the darker side, dark to middle, middle to dark. Okay, and I can kind of play around with it and, you know, do all that kind of stuff. I can erase away. I have little scribbles up here, so I can take the eraser and I'll clean up those edges and stuff like that. Okay, but this is the basic cube with shadows and cast shadows, indicating that the light source is coming from here. Now, you'll notice that a cube has flat faces on it. This is really important because when we look at the cylinder, a cylinder only has a flat face on the top, but it does not on the side, like a can of beans. Okay, it's rounded. And that means that we're not going to have flat values like this. We're going to have a gradient. Okay, so the way that you shade this in is if the light source is coming from this side, we know that this half of the can or the cylinder is going to be dark. So I'm going to start at the very right side of this cylinder, kind of dark. And as I move my way towards the middle, I'm making a gradient so that it gets lighter and lighter and lighter until it fades. Remember, all rounded shapes, their shadows are going to be like a gradient. I'm making sure it's a little darker here. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my eraser and erase away, kind of clean up some of those edges. So you'll see that it's a gradient from dark to light. Okay, because the light source is hitting this side, but the shadow's on this side. I'm going to leave this pretty light too, because again, the light's hitting almost directly to it. So I'm going to keep that pretty light. The very bottom of the cylinder, I'm going to put a point to the bottom of that smile. And I'm going to draw a horizontal line from there. And then same for this, another parallel horizontal line. Now the ground is flat, so you're going to have a flat value. And I'm going to make that pretty dark. So the cast shadow is not a gradient because the ground is flat. If the ground were rounded, then you would have a gradient, but it's not. This one's flat. So I'm going to have a flat shape like this, okay? And that's how you do the shadow and the cast shadow for a cylinder. All right, now we're going to look at the cone. Cone, again, is rounded. But this time, this one's going to be a little tricky because a lot of people think that the shadow is going to kind of go like this, but it's actually going to be pivoting from the very top. So if I start to shade, notice that I'm kind of rotating and pivoting along that top point. So this side's going to be really dark because the light's coming from this direction. And as I come towards the middle, I'm kind of rotating the pencil, so I'm still going towards that top point. And then as I go closer and closer, I get lighter and lighter. All right, and then I can kind of go back in and kind of make some of those values a little bit darker. All right, if you want to, you could take your finger and just kind of rub. All right, and it also gives it sort of a gradient, and then I can erase away if it gets a little too dark on that side. All right, so we have a gradient. This side's going to be dark, and as you come towards this direction, it's going to be light. Okay, and it should sort of, like, you don't have to draw this in here, but the shadow is going to kind of end from that point down to the middle. And then in order to do the cast shadow, the very bottom of that smile of the cone, I'm going to have this kind of go out like that, and this, and I'll kind of end it like a really long horizontal triangle. And again, the ground is flat, so this shadow, the cast shadow, is also going to be a flat value. And I'm going to shade it in nice and dark. All right, and there you go. You have a cone with the shadow and the cast shadow, and it's really important that you follow that. And then the last one we're going to do is the pyramid. Now the pyramid is going to be easier because it's all flat shapes. There are no rounded shapes on the pyramid. So just like we did with the face of the cube, the face of the pyramid, I'm going to do very light gray. Now, this side, of course, is going to be very bright, but this side that we see here along the side is going to be dark. That's where the shadow is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and shade that in nice and dark. Kind of play around with clean up those edges there. Use the eraser, clean it up a little bit. Okay, and then the cast shadow is going to be a continuation of the bottom of that triangle for the pyramid. And then I'm going to kind of take this and make this a nice long triangle, the same thing that we did with the cone. And the ground is flat, so that is going to be a nice solid value. Okay, so, and that's all you have to do, and then go ahead and turn that in. So just to kind of recap, the cube has flat shapes, flat sides. The pyramid has flat sides, so all of the values are just going to be solid values. But the cylinder and the cone are rounded, so you're going to make sure you do a gradient when you make those shadows along the side. All four of the cast shadows are a solid value. All right, so now that you are done with this, go ahead and turn it in, and it should look something like this when you are finished. And if you have any questions, please ask. Have a great day.